Oh, you can hear the dog.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of these crazy fools. Just keep talking about eating meat and never stop, never stop, never stop. So me and Justin decided to do an impromptu video. We were very inspired by a video that a couple of our friends did. Raymond Nazon and Laird Bart Kay, as I believe he's going by right now, the meat militia himself. They did a video where Raymond decided to coach Bart, and Bart decided to be coached by Raymond. So if you guys haven't seen it, definitely check it out. We'll put a link in the description. But it inspired Justin and I to do a video about how everybody needs help sometime or another. And I think one of the first questions we come across when people find out we coach people is they say, well, why would somebody need a coach for carnivore, right? So we could touch on that real quick. But even people who coach other people need coaching sometimes, right? And sometimes, I mean, anybody who's in in sports knows they have specialty coaches for different things, right? Baseball, they have pitching coaches and base coaches and hitting coaches, right? And same thing, football, right? Tackling coaches, and on and on and on. So sometimes you just need a specialist for something, right? But as we saw, Bart's been struggling with a few things, right? What did you get out of the video, Justin?
Well, first of all, I mean, got to really, give it to Bart's credit for being honest, authentic, and just laying it all out there. Many of us, myself included, consider, Bart Kay a top tier expert in the world of nutrition and carnivory. And so for him to be that vulnerable and to know that he struggles as well, that he even used the term or carb hole, having some carbohydrates, drinking some beer, things of that nature. um it was a little bit of a surprise and a shock. I'm not gonna lie. But Raymond really handling it, really pinpointing things, and it's just, even though that if you were to stack credentials, Bart has, research papers under his name, peer reviews, this organization, that organization, this degree, that
Right.
degree, and Raymond, he's come into that field with just his, Meet RX, carnivore coaching certification, and you would think that, like, oh, there's no way that Bart could ever need any kind of help. He's, like I said, credentialed and everything in so many different ways, and just a true genius and scientific mind. Um, but just because you know something intellectually doesn't mean that we know how to put it into practice in our daily lives. And I think that's why. And I'm not calling Bart a hypocrite, but I am saying a lot of people can end up being hypocrites because it is hard to do what's best for ourselves, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And so it's really awesome, really cool for Ray and Bart to share it with everyone. This is just a series. This is one video of many more to come, at least a month or four videos, um, if not more. And it'll be really cool to see their journey together, the pitfalls, the successes, and everything in between.
Yeah. Uh, so I like to say too that we all need help sometimes, and it's not like Bart hasn't mentioned many times that he may have been indulging in pizza and beer, stuff like that.
He needs to work on his discipline, as he would say.
Yes, and Bart, he is on the spectrum, as we say. He's autistic. He has PDA, so which pathological demand avoidance is how it's summed up. We all know, Bart's the kind of guy who'll take on challengers left and right aggressively, but he's having a little trouble getting over the hump, sometimes he would start eating pizza and drinking beer. I guess he'd been off the pizza for a while, but still he would drink beer or whatever, tons of coffee and stuff like that. And he had a hard time quitting. Like it would come in spurts, as I understand it, which happens to a lot of people.
Hmm.
And part of me wonders if coaching, and just in the respect of providing some accountability, and then also a guy like Ray is going to immediately hit you with a new challenge, and sometimes those challenges, just upping your game, provides a new perspective to everything, right? And instead of being faced with your everyday challenges that we all have of just the monotony, I mean, I know some people who drink strictly out of boredom, right? And we probably all know people who drink out of because of anxiety, or
Hmm.
people who smoke weed because they have anxiety, and then eventually the weed just gives them more anxiety. So
Right.
people do it for a lot of different reasons. But somebody gives you a challenge, somebody like Ray gives you a big challenge, and then it takes you out of that boredom or that tedium or just the anxiety from the daily grind and gives you something new to focus on. Sometimes I think that's all it is. It's like uh, uh, the accountability and the challenge of doing something new, right? Because maybe Bart's really not that challenged. I mean, like he's used to teaching classes and doing research in the laboratory and publishing papers, and now it's coaching social media, teaching online and stuff like that. And maybe that was a little too mundane for him, right?
Yeah, and it's like, if you want to get busy, you want to change things, it may sound counterintuitive to stack something else on your plate, but for some reason it works. Taking on more seems to set up the mind and psychologically to tackle more, to move forward. And yeah, that could be it. It could be, that just typical carnivore is too easy for him, and um so adding on a little extra edge, a little more skin in the game, you know reevaluating oneself. It is the new year season, and so it always kind of the first step is self-reflection, and that's kind of where they started with was, he was looking at himself and his health, and was like, don't really like the direction I've been going in, here in a minute. And everyone takes that look. Well, maybe not everyone, but anyone serious about help or serious about starting a new diet or anything new, should always start with that self-reflection of where you're at, you know.
Yeah, he did mention he definitely had some emotional triggers when it came to eating or drinking or whatever. So I think everybody's kind of familiar with that. You get triggered by things. I know he moved at some point. He was living up at Greymouth and then moved to Nelson. And I'm sure that was kind of stressful. And then a little bit of career change going on. I think his girlfriend changed jobs, and
You know
a
something about that, Tom.
little bit for sure. Yeah. So anybody can face that. Anybody can be derailed from that. As much as Bart's made a lot of progress, like most of us, got some extra challenges too. And anybody can get tripped up by that. So
Yeah, and another thing that stood out, which I think is something that a lot of us don't like to hear, is that even though, I mean, like you said, he was 90% there, 90% carnivore, he was noticing that 10% is was being damaging to him, you know?
mm,
And so for some of us, it it might be, no sugar, no carbs, no dairy, no plants, like really, that's Michaela, the Michaela Peterson strategy, the lion diet, steak, salt, water, and I think that is really, really helpful. And so for myself, something that was weird that's come up recently is that I think I react to avocado. You know what I mean? Which I'm really surprised about because
Right.
A, I'm Mexican, so that's offensive. That should be like illegal. And B, um,
Well, let's qualify that because you're kind of half Mexican, so maybe you're half allergic to it.
right, right,
Maybe.
right. Good thing I'm not pasty white. You know that I don't explode in the sun. Who knows what would happen to me if I
Yeah.
dare had an avocado? But you know, and that hurt me the next day. You know, I had some pain, stomach pains, headache, like just wasn't feeling great. You know, and so it's like on the one hand, it's like, man, I can't believe it. That's so lame. Like pretty much everyone can have avocado, even the keto. Like they do a lot of avocado. A lot of people on carnivore will occasionally have an avocado. And supposedly, you know, it's one of, if not the least toxic plant, you know? So it's kind of like, dang, I can't even have the least toxic plant. Are you serious? You know, and so I can sit there and complain or whatever, or I can just be like, hey, I know now. And if I want to be at my absolute best, like no plants, you know? And I think it's really weird because, and maybe it's different for other people, but for me, going without plants was actually kind of a challenge that can be really psychologically testing with people. You know, people kind of know that a donut is bad, you know, that pizza is bad. We know that pizza
Right.
is not a health food. But when you say that broccoli, that kale, that orange, that avocado could be damaging you,
Right.
you get a whole different look. But that is the point of carnivores. We make that claim and we back it up as best we can. And so, you know, for Bart to say he was at 90%, but you know, going down, or at least not to where he wants to be, sometimes it's about, you know, cleaning up and tightening things up. You know, got to be stricter. You know, and I hate using the word strict, you know, as it is. What are you gaining though? You know, moving towards goals, better, you know, body composition, more strength, more energy. So when I'm coaching, I always try to frame it in what they're gaining, not what they're giving up, because you're moving in an overall direction of health. I know when I'm choosing that steak with just steak and salt that I am making the absolute best decision for my body, you know, and it's not about what I'm giving up. You know what I mean? The other temptations.
Right. Yeah, I'm right there with you. It's like moving in that direction and keep. When I mean, like one of my big weaknesses was coffee for a long time. I kept drinking it. And oftentimes when you're coaching, that's one of the last things you pressure people to give up because they really want their coffee. You'd much rather see them give up the bread and the pasta and all the stuff with vegetable oil in it and stuff like that. So, um, I let myself just, I was still drinking coffee every day, several times a day, and stuff. And at some point you got to step back and go, yeah, stuff's not really good for you. We'd like to believe it is. Like, we'd like to believe, a couple glasses of red wine are actually good for you and going to help you live longer, but there's probably really no evidence. Some weak epidemiology studies and a bunch of guys trying to sell you resveratrol or something like that, which is all kind of bogus, right? Same thing, coffee. There's all kinds of coffee products out there that are supposed to make you healthier and live longer, and they really don't do that. So,
Special blend from South America or whatever that will, you
right,
know, make you fight a monkey or something, you know.
green coffee stuff. I see green coffee supplements and stuff like that. And the truth is that if we weren't eating a heavy plant diet, we probably wouldn't need any of these remedies, right?
Right. And one of the best stories, and we've talked about it already with Joe. I mean, Joe giving up coffee, I mean, it's almost night and day with him. he noticed drastic changes and improvement in energy and sleep and
Right.
his performance as a quasi professional cyclist, you know.
Right.
Um, just from giving up that cup every morning, you know what I mean? And that's it. I mean, it's not like he was having, 36 ounces a day or anything like that. So, just it's
No,
important to,
he's shooting little espresso cups.
right, because he's in Australia. So they don't even have, our big gulp of coffee that we can get
Right.
over here.
I'll have a small.
Right. A tall.
Yeah, no, that's true. He's drinking a smaller quantity, although he drank potent coffee,
Right.
He's an obsessive Italian type guy.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so there's a lot of a lot of things that linger, or a lot of things we relapse into. I mean, when you stop eating stuff and then you sit back and you see billboards or TV commercials or whatever for these foods, whether it's donuts or bagels or even hamburgers and French fries and stuff, that's put on a pedestal like, oh yeah, you got to eat this, or everything, everything with bread and just about now is got whole grains in it, it's like you're practically gonna get healthier just smelling a loaf of multigrain bread, right? And it's just not the case for most people. Most people don't realize that they're better off without it, or inundated with it, and then we're tempted by it, right? Because they do whatever they can to make things smell better, taste better, blending flavors together that don't really exist in nature, and so on and so forth. And we think it's all good for us, right? And really, all this cooking and mixing of things is just making our food taste like something other than our food, right? It's all some sort of trickery that we've elevated to a high art, right? I mean, I was at the gym again the other night, and they had the cooking channel on in the corner. And it seems like they're always making cakes on that thing. There's like building these colossal cakes and stuff, and they make them look like statues and stuff. And I realized, you know what? I don't think anybody watches this TV. It's been on the same channel probably for months, And so I went up there and I was changing the channel and just put it on some random movie channel, because I'm like, nobody in here is gonna get in the cake decorating contest, But there's entire TV channels, networks dedicated to making food taste like something else, to look like something else, right? It's like a big deal in our society, probably most societies, but except in the places where they just eat animals. It's like that famous episode of No Reservations with Anthony Bourdain when he's hanging out with some Inuit Eskimo family, and somebody walks in with a seal that they just killed and sits down on the kitchen floor and just eat that puppy raw. Even grandma's in there digging away, just eating it. So it is what it is, and that's really how we evolved. There was no special spices for the seal. It's like you see guys fish in, catch a fish, cut the fish up, eat the fish, shoot a deer, shoot an elk. Well, these days you got to cook your elk on a Traeger, according to Joe Rogan. But other than that, other than having to use a pellet grill, it's pretty much the same thing, right?
Yeah, and
That's.
I do want to swing back to, or go ahead, Tom, if you had another point.
I was just gonna say we have this huge part of our culture that's all about eating food that's essentially adulterated, right?
Yeah, I mean that's cooking culture, chef culture, whatever you want to call it, and I mean it's interesting, and we all did it. I mean you feel, I don't know, it's this weird accomplishment spending 3 hours in the kitchen to gobble something down in 15 minutes, and so it's like, man, how much more productive could I have been than I am now, you know? Um, but I just want to kind of swing back to our original topic about coaches coaching other coaches or needing help. I don't think anyone does carnivore alone, or very well or successfully alone. Maybe, but everyone, has either listened to Sean or listened to this person or that person, Michaela, whoever. And it isn't so much about, because you think they're right and everything they're doing is right, but oftentimes people are starting out in carnivore and they're the only carnivore they know is themselves, and they're trying to do it and they're already kind of usually have some kind of health issues, so you're not exactly feeling $100, and so that's why you want to be carnivore in the first place. And then everyone's looking at you weird, your doctor's worried about you, you have family members worried that you're not eating vegetables or something like that. And so it can be quite taxing psychologically. And so I think that's the biggest part of the coaching is dealing with the emotional and psychological. The diet itself is fairly simple. I mean, there are some, special needs that some of us have in doing the diet. But I mean, as far as eat meat, drink water, it sounds simple, but in practice, what that means that you're not eating, that you're used to eating, and some of the adjustment symptoms. Um, but so sometimes there's a year into carnivore and people are still struggling with a couple of things, and they know that they can overcome it, and it's just sometimes it's increasing the fat, sometimes it's eating more, sometimes it is incorporating fasting, sometimes you haven't been as disciplined as you've been telling people, or as you think that you are once you start thinking about it, because it's easy to forget what you eat in an average week, right? Like, I mean, I couldn't tell you every meal that I had the last 7 days. There's a few things that stand out, but you know, I, there's a few things that I'm sure I could miss out. Even being carnivore. You know, um, and so it's good to have a coach to that's walked, especially if they've accomplished what you're trying to accomplish. So if it's you feel like your weight stalled, you're at whatever. Yeah, sure, you started at 350, but now you're at 226, and you don't know how to lose that extra 50 pounds or whatever it is. So looking for a coach that's been on that journey. you know um I really like that Steak and Butter gal and um, Kelly Hogan recently did a podcast together where they talked about weight gain on carnivore. I think that story is very, very important. That sometimes for the body to heal, you might pack on 20 pounds, 25 pounds, or more maybe,
Mhm.
and then start to lose after that. Um, and
Yeah, and
you've
there's
talked.
all different kinds of weight, right? I mean, some people realize they've been starving themselves with protein, and so they don't have enough muscle. They might have plenty of fat, not enough muscle because they don't have enough protein. And then once they start eating more protein, they start putting on muscle and they start feeling better, start doing more, so they start putting on even more muscle. So yeah, you could knowing that that's a possibility is important because it's not necessarily that's a good thing to have happen right there. So as opposed to just getting fatter, which we're all trying to avoid, right?
Right, or just the pure sense of your body just needed the nutrients. You need to build a cocoon for certain things to heal in the body, especially for women.
Cocoon,
Cocoon, yeah. For women, because of their hormones being so important,
right?
for their processes.
Yeah,
Uh,
people's hormone profiles definitely change, and usually they adjust for the better, for sure.
and you've talked about it, Tom, epigenetic changes, and sometimes it really is that you're not doing anything wrong. It's just you need to give it more time. You know, 20 years of damage, you know, um, may not be solved in 6 months. I'm still healing. My migraines are continue to get better. They continue to get less frequent and less painful. And my tolerance to, you know, I did have a coffee, speaking of coffee, but I did have a coffee, 2, 3 nights ago. and nothing happened. I was totally fine. So
Except you haven't slept since.
can you really tell that? You know, and so, and I don't know if it's just a specific blend or whatever, but it's this ongoing experiment is interesting, and I've kind of changed my tune and give it 2 years. People talk about 6 months, 3 months, 1 year, but I hear so many stories about people that once they hit that 2 year mark at carnivore, it's like a switch and they're on like a whole nother level. And me 4 months away from hitting my 2 years, like I like I'm gearing up. Like I'm so psyched. And I feel so much better now compared to last year, January. Like I'm like 2 times better now than I was last January, which is insane. You know what I mean? And so, man, you know, stick with it. I mean, yeah, and there are some people though that might need coaching because, and that's why there's people like Austin that do quality carnivore. That if you're looking for labs, if you're really stuck, and you think it could be something that you just can't see because it's something biological, yeah, someone like Austin is awesome for that. But, and I think everyone needs to go that level? I I'll be honest, I don't think so, doing all those labs, that might just make you paranoid or something. I don't know. Sometimes too much information is not a good thing also. Um, and so I think what I would do is, start from a coach from Meet RX or one of us, Tom, Emily, you know. Um, but if you need something, a little more intense, then yeah, doing labs and maybe working with someone like Austin might be the right move, you know. Um, but you're not alone. We all have our struggles, we all have our pitfalls, and we're constantly trying to figure ourselves out. We're constantly learning new things. Tom, I remember you mentioning recently that you've had another of your psoriasis flare ups, and you've been off coffee for quite a while, and things like that. And I haven't really seen you go off the reservation as far as carnivore. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
I don't think it was dietary related. So, that's another thing. It's like went down the rabbit hole for a long time. Everything got better, and then it's like weird things like psoriasis pop up again. And you're like, well, maybe I should look for a cause other than what I've been eating and drinking. And
mm,
I think that's what it was because I've noticed that I definitely react to things like insect bites, stuff like that. So almost anything like that that presumably is causing an elevated level of histamines or something can cause it. So instead of worrying about the diet, uh, what could be wrong with the diet or something like that, you have to keep your eyes open and not be too focused because you get some mosquito spider bites, or you get some sort of rash or something uh, that can also cause a problem. So try not to
and
hit it with blinders on.
right. And so, there's other causes too. It's not always diet.
Right.
And I think it's not until we go carnivore that we realize how important sleep is because we don't have the caffeine or the sugar and stuff to make up for, or what feels like we were making up for the loss of sleep. Get a bad night's of sleep, you grab coffee and a donut on the way to work, and you feel like you're chugging along just fine, right? But now, as a carnivore, if you get a bad night's of sleep, you really feel it, unfortunately. And I don't think there's a way around that, you know? Um,
Yeah, and I take the approach that I come from a long history of not being able to sleep well, and this has given me an opportunity to get better at it. So because when I do sleep, my quality of sleep is better, and I am gradually sleeping for longer and longer periods of time. And I agree 100% that we probably don't put enough emphasis on the importantness of sleep, and a certain amount of our culture kind of encourages people not to sleep a lot, and oh, you don't need it, or if you're sleeping too much, you're just lazy, or you're wasting time, or you're not being a go-getter. You need to get out there and get after it. We hear about people all the time that are like, top tier athletes just about, but they're not getting enough sleep, and then they're having crisis. They're like, they're having metabolic meltdown, their hormones are off, they can't do this, they can't do that, this and that's failing. It's like, oh well, you only slept 5 hours, 5.5 hours, and then you're up hitting the you're up doing road work, or skipping rope and lifting weights, and you didn't sleep. you know your body can only go so far doing that, right? People start breaking down. So I think carnivore for me, and even little things like, I wear a little Fitbit watch, and the thing I like about it most is it makes me accountable for my sleep, because I look at that record and I go, ooh, I only slept 5 hours and 20 minutes last night. That's probably why I feel like crap today. Oh, that's probably why I'm sucking at the gym. It's like, I didn't really recover from my last workout because I didn't sleep, right? And there's that record. I mean, you can always abuse data. You can always depend on it too much. You can always overweight its value. But when I sat down and really looked at how much I was sleeping, the data that it was reporting was seemed to be very accurate. And I don't worry too much about how much time I spend in REM sleep or deep sleep or light sleep or whatever. I don't get into that too much. But the amount of time I'm actually asleep directly correlates with how well I do, how good I feel, my attitude, and my performance. So, and I know I'm not going to build much muscle if I don't sleep. And that's what I want to do, is get stronger. So, yeah.
Definitely. Another reason to get a coach, if you're a person that's trying to build some muscle, build some strength, a coach like you would be perfect for that, because that's the journey that you're on. And I think matching your journey to a coach that's on your journey, I think can be very, very helpful. And there's little tips too, like sometimes it's okay, the eggs are a problem for you. Or I've heard some great results recently about lamb, that for some reason a lot of people, if they go straight lamb or start eating a lot of lamb, they notice that that's even better on them. I don't know why, and that's something I've learned recently from Michaela Peterson especially, but I've heard that pop up a few different times. you know um or the opposite, people throwing in fish and pork on top of the beef and they feel better, for whatever reason. I can't, I don't know why, but there's plenty of animals out there to try. And so if you feel like you're deficient, or you feel like you're having some, maybe throwing on a fatty fish, some salmon, some lobster, some shrimp,
Yeah, I've
butter,
been
ghee.
eating oysters, shrimp pretty much every week, and it seems like I managed to get my hands on some lobster every other week or so. Not a lot. I mean, I think it's kind of seasonal, but we get all these small lobster tails inexpensively now. So, and they're, I mean, what do we figure out? It only takes about 3.5 minutes to cook them. So
Right.
once you get the water boiling, it's like it's cooked in no time. You gotta let it cool off a little bit, but yeah, it's easy. And then I've been eating shrimp. I buy the frozen shrimp, and by the time it's thawed out, I'm throwing it down the hatch, and it's great. So it goes along good with a ribeye. And the oysters too. Joe Zumbo was getting some tips for him of cooking. I mean, he's like, oh, I'd cook them in butter, and I was like, all right. And I gotta tell you, cooking cooking the oysters in butter in a pan, it's a fantastic flavor. Just tastes amazing. In fact, I think that's what I'm gonna have for dinner.
There you
So
go.
yeah. No, I didn't, I knew I liked him, and it's like, with all the talk about zinc and keeping your immune system strong, that's like an easy way to get some zinc. So it's like, man, that's kind of a no-brainer. It's basically a license to buy extra oysters from now on, right?
There
So
you go.
yeah. So yeah, I'm with you. I think lamb and beef seems to be what most people enjoy. Some people eat a lot of pork and do really well. few people seem to thrive on chicken, but
Right.
few of us get quality chicken. So, maybe if you got good quality chicken, maybe it goes a long ways. I don't know.
And occasionally I'll crave a chicken, and it's kind of fun to just cut, you get one of those rotisserie chickens from the store, cut it in half, and that's a pretty decent meal, and, you know, a half chicken, just chow down on it. No, you're looking at me, Tom, like I'm crazy.
Well, I love rotisserie chicken. I ate way more rotisserie chicken before I was carnivore than I do now.
Right.
And I think that like if I was really hungry, I could probably, I don't know, maybe. I would like to think I could eat a whole rotisserie chicken. Of course, they come in different sizes. One
Right.
store it'll be 4.5 pounds, and this store it'll be 3 pounds. You
Is
know,
that our next video? Is that our challenge? I'll go to your house. We'll each buy a rotisserie chicken from Sprouts, and we'll time it and see
ooh,
how long.
Sprouts no less.
Yeah, there you go.
I got brand new Sprouts like within walking distance of my house. I've been there once. It's because you wanted to go. So I keep saying I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna get this and get that, and I keep forgetting. I don't my car doesn't go that direction for some reason. I always go the other way because all the other stores are the other direction. But
You're not a young hipster like me.
that's right.
Yeah.
Apparently not.
I'm really close to Orange County. That's why I'm all about the Sprouts and Whole
Ah,
Foods.
well,
Yeah.
is that what it is?
Right. Once I move, I don't know. I'm gonna be lost without my hoity-toity shopping
Oh, you just
organic.
move and the hoity-toity will follow you, I'm sure.
Okay, good. So I did want to make another like major point. I think a big takeaway from this video. Um, there's no shame. Like for real, there's no shame in needing help. Look at Bart. He's as much of an expert as you can get in this, and he's willing to humble himself and be like, "Hey Ray, I'm struggling and I need some help." And there's no shame in that. It's completely okay. I don't care if you're 6 months, 18 months, 2 years into carnivore. If you're not getting the results that you want, you feel like that, you could improve, or hey, maybe you are going off the reservation a little more than you're honest about, or that you might be dealing with some alcohol issues or some weed issues or some other substance or some coffee issues, you know um, there's no shame in that. No one's going to come and take your carnivore card away. I think the carnivore community is way more forgiving than the vegan community. Yeah, you got some freaks out there, and yeah, you got some weirdos, and yeah, you got some people that are chowing down on some honey. Whatever, I mean, I'm not here to say that they're not carnivore. I'm not going to make that ruling. As fun as it would be, and as great and as much as drama sells, we try to be a little bit above that.
Yeah, yeah. We all, like I said, we all need help sometimes. We all going through life, and you can get derailed in all kinds of different ways. We can get off the path all different kinds of ways, or struggle with little things. And you made the point that like Bart found that the 10% of non-compliance was a big problem. And as much as I like your revisionist history of how Bart was asking for help, and Ray jumped up and said, "I'll help you," I think it was kind of the other way around. Bart was basically talking about how he hadn't been particularly strict for a long time, and he didn't really care, and blah blah blah. And Ray's like, "Well, you know what, Bart? I can help you. Why don't we work together, right?" So I don't know what I don't know. Your version of it's probably a little better, but I think that's not quite exactly how it happened. But
I
I
think
I,
I
I
think
was
you're right, Tom.
I was thinking about it, and I was like, I wonder if Bart's been asking for help all this time. Because I heard him mention it many times, and then of course it took Ray to step up and do something about it, right? And in a way, I thought, God, that kind of sucks because I've probably known Bart longer than all of you guys,
Right.
and I should have maybe occurred to me at some point, and it didn't. So,
Well, you've been a busy guy, and you've had, well, like many of us, but you've had a heck of a 2020. Let's be
Yeah, it's been
let's
an
be
odd.
honest here. You know what I mean?
Just 2020 has been packed full of odd things, lots
Right,
of
exactly.
distractions, and very little free time for sure. But
And,
it is good to be here making a video with you again. And I think for me to sum it all up, it's good that we have the community so that not everybody necessarily needs a coach, but it's good to have a community where people can share ideas and get some sort of support and realize that they're really not the only one, even if they're the only one they actually know in person. You
right,
know, there is the thing of knowing that there's other people out there, and of course, there's all kinds of little tips and tricks to share. So
right. And what's beautiful is that this is nothing new. I mean, a lot of the old timers were on the message boards of zero carbs in, right? Was that the, and then that was
zeroing in on health.
zero in on health. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Even older than zero carbs in.
So
Yeah,
yeah, let
zero.
me just throw that out there real quick. If
Right.
people aren't familiar with it, even before it was on Facebook, there was a website called Zeroing In on Health. I believe it was basically started by Charles Washington
Yeah.
and friends of ours like Dr. Lisa Wiedemann. She was on there getting help more than 10 years ago. She's got to have been carnivore for 11 or 12 years now, something
I think
in
it's
that
11
realm.
years if I
So
remember
that
right.
that community has been around for a long time, and these people are still thriving. Of course, we did an interview with uh, what was his name? I forgot, but it's right on the tip of my tongue too. I feel bad, but I'll put it in the show notes. I'll put the comments in the show or in the comment show notes. I'll put links to some of the interviews we've done with some of the people that have been carnivore for 10 or more years. And of course, Kelly Hogan's one of those. We haven't actually done a video with her, but I think Justin's going to line that up pretty soon. It's going to
Working
get
on it.
Kelly to come on. So she's been carnivore for a long time. As many times as she's scolded us for posting videos and zeroing in on health, you think she would come on and scold us in person, perhaps.
And there's actually a new group that was just started by Steak and Butter Gal that we'll put a link to, the Steak and Butter Gang. It's
Yeah,
very Facebook-esque, but purely carnivore,
and not
very
actually
cool,
on Facebook.
and not on Facebook. Yeah,
So a nice
exactly. And
alternative.
right, exactly. And so if you because I get it, you can get anxious, posting in groups, you don't know people's identity and weird stuff. I get it. Or sometimes people don't want stuff leaking into their timeline, you know, especially when they're first carnivores, But I think that there's really built to be a safe community for carnivores with carnivores. Of course, you keto people are always welcome. We swim in the same circles. We're not going to
Yeah,
get on you about your MCT oil, your avocado, and your what else do they like? You were keto for a long time. What's a
coconut
staple?
oil,
Coconut oil, yeah.
almond flour.
Olive oil, almond flour, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, we're all friendly with the low carb crowd in general. It's
Right.
we're not really in this to compete. We're not really in this to have a club that we kick people out of or something like that. It's more about us all doing better and being healthier. You know, that's the bottom line. So,
Yeah. And
anyways,
you and there's great, amazing people in this community. Some of the best people I've ever met are because of being in the carnivore community.
right. Shockingly, shockingly rich with libertarians. As we keep finding out.
Right, yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, I think we got our point across. Shall we wrap her up?
I believe so.
All right, then. Well, I want to thank everybody for watching. I invite you to leave comments. Let us know what you think or, what you'd like us to talk about in the future. And, of course, it helps if you subscribe to the channel and pass the links around to other people who might benefit from the information and, uh, you know, um, give us the old thumbs up, hit the like
Like the
button
video,
and
share.
subscribe.
Yep.
So everybody out there, eat some meat, feel better. Whatever you do,
Don't fall down the carb hole.
couldn't have said it better myself.